Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I want to talk a little bit about frame locks. There are so many out there that we're awash in titanium frame locks, which is frankly a pretty cool place for the industry to be in. Like if you are kind of new to knives and you want to experience, the very best of modern manufacturing, you don't even have to spend that much money. You can, I mean, you can spend as much as you want, but there are fantastic knives out there in high-end materials that are, under $200. So that's fantastic, and it's great that we have that ability, and that even someone who's maybe not super into knives can have something really cool and really different and really interesting. And I think actually all of these knives that I've got on the table in front of me are examples of that. However, well, there are lots of cool knives out there, and I really, really enjoy lots of them. Sometimes when I see, what's coming out of various companies, especially when I see how it's put together, I get a little disappointed. And maybe you guys are going, "Come on, Kevin! Like, what more do you want?" Um, and maybe I'm spoiled. Maybe I have just reviewed too many things that now I'm underwhelmed unless something is really unique and different and compelling. But um, I let's start out with this. I find that especially the big Riot, Bestech, Koenig, even Zero Tolerance. They've kind of got a pattern going, and they just stick to the pattern. All right, so I'm going to pull this out of the way because it breaks the pattern a little bit. But these are a couple of pretty big, nice frame locks, interesting design, especially the Bestech Fairchild here. What a cool looking knife! Like this is one of the cooler knives that I've seen in the last few years. It's a really, really nice combination of a piece of artwork along with a functional cutting tool. I really, really enjoy this knife. But well, the design I absolutely love, and it looks really different and really cool. When you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's really the same thing. And same with this. Now there are some departures from previous CTs. This is the 308. Certainly you can sort of get that 0300 flavor from it, but even the 0300 had a couple things going on that I think were a little bit different. But so let's take a look at this, in its simplest form. We've got a couple of slabs of titanium here. We've got a backspacer, pocket clip. We've got, for functionality, we have a relief cut. Okay, we've cut the titanium to make it move the way that we want it to. We've got a lock bar insert with a ceramic detemp ball, and we've got single row ceramic bearings in here. I will say, all of that stuff is well done. Okay, it functions in the way that it should. By the way, essentially we've got the same thing over here. We've got a relief cut, we've got a lock bar insert. In this case, we have a flipper tab, but bearings and a detemp ball. Okay, so fairly standard stuff, guys. Now, I have some examples here that I'll bring in a second, but these kind of follow a pattern. Okay, we've got cage ceramic bearings, single row. We've got a lock bar insert. We've got a ceramic detemp ball. We've got a stop pin somewhere. Okay, so you can see the stop pin here on the Fairchild. You can see the stop pin is under the blade. There you go. Or inside this see this groove that's been cut out. That is a nice touch. That's a little bit of an extra, gives ET a couple of extra points for that. But that's really about it. Like this is, and this is fine for a basic EDC knife. All right. However, I think at this point we have the technology, we have the knowledge to do better, and I wish that we would. Now, when I say that, it doesn't need to be really, really new. Okay, let me grab a couple of the knives I already had out here. So here's my Riot Torrent. Here is my Inkosi. Obviously, Chris Reeve invented the frame lock. And this is doing a couple of things different, of course. You've got the ceramic detemp ball there. You've got a massive washer here, which, both of which are really, really um, overbuilt and add a level of longevity and durability that I think is very well done. Um, but and so let me get into some of the things that these knives do. This one, the Sleesh here is a little bit of a different game because this is not meant to be overbuilt. It's not meant to be hard use, but even it I can complain a little bit about. So the way this is done is there are actually two stop pins in this blade. One at the back is functioning to stop it, and then another one on the opposite side of the blade that closes it, that stops it in the closed position, which is fine. And it's kind of a cool way of doing this, but it does, the OCD in me is kind of bothered by this because it's a little uneven. It's the way the forces are distributed now, it means you've got this pushing up here, and instead of having an equal distribution, you've only got the stop pin over here stopping it. And I don't really love that. And I guess, no, that's not fair for me to say. You've got the other stop pin over here that I'm assuming has a hard stop. So you do have some distribution of forces there. And I guess I got to eat my words a little bit on this one. Okay. But that is an example. My point is, all right, that I just unmade on myself, that, we could pay a little more attention to how forces are distributed, to how the things we're doing are achieved. And there are some really good examples out there. Brian Nadeau's detent system is just phenomenal, right? It's great. He's integrated it right into the lock bar. On this RIA, we have dual row ceramic bearings, which does a great job of distributing those forces and still delivers phenomenal action. Now, it's not quite as nice as roller bearings. And again, you could say, well, roller bearings, you can buy a $1,000 Shiro to get roller bearings. Well, yeah, you can. Or you could buy like a $150 real steel. Okay. And even some of their budget models have roller bearings, which is phenomenal. Right. And it's been demonstrated. I don't know, many of you, it's an older video now, but there is a video out there of Shirogorov loading, right, putting heavier and heavier weight on the bearings and then moving the blade to see what system distributes those forces the best and maintains a level of smoothness and doesn't fail. And, in a surprise to no one, it was roller bearings, which is really, really cool. And so I would love to see that in way, way, way more pivots. There are other things that I've seen, oh, now I can't think of the name. I'm sorry, guys. The zero tolerance mud with those sealed bearings that kept everything out. That was a really cool innovation. Is it necessary on every knife? No, but it would be nice to see that, maybe on a knife like this where it's meant to be hard use. ZT has worked with. Now I can't think of their name, guys. I am so sorry. I don't know how this slipped my mind, but nonetheless, Hawk. There we go. But ZT's worked with the Hawks before. Why not use that in a couple of other offerings and make something really unique and special and spread that out into some other models, right? So we've talked about roller bearings. We've talked about the sealed bearing, which is a really cool system. I want to talk about the thumb studs here, or the stop pins, really, the stop lugs, maybe you want to call it. They're big. They distribute the force really, really well, and they allow for the triangle of strength, if you will. So you've got, tension placed by the lock bar on the blade in the open position. That's putting these into a stronger position, and it's putting a little bit of tension here. So you've got this sort of triangle here where you end up with a very, very strong, secure lock that's going to have a lot of longevity because those forces are distributed into the frame through a number of different ways. Now, Chris Reeve achieves this as well by using just a massive stop pin and one that also moves so that over time a flat spot can't develop or undue wear can't develop on just one part of the stop pin. The ceramic ball in here is the same. I mean, lock bar inserts, similar idea over there, and that's pretty good as well to increase longevity, and that's something I'm glad to see. The other thing I really love to see, and you get an example of it here. This is one of the reasons I got this knife out. See how the relief cut, okay, has a bit of an edge here to it. One, that makes it a little more comfortable in hand, but two, that adds a little bit of extra strength. And if you've seen any of there's been actually a number of videos about this. Um, but I think the main one was the 0300 when Demco and Cold Steel were doing all those testing videos. There was the 0300 um, against, I can't remember what Cold Steel model, probably doesn't matter. Maybe the Swift. Anyway, whatever. But the relief cut is where the lock bar failed. And so that's kind of a known weak point. It'd be nice to see that beefed up a little bit. And there have been a number of knives. Ferrum Forge knives consistently do that, including the Ferrum Forge collaborations with WE Knives. They tend to often have that as a feature, which I really, really like. And again, I'd love to see that a lot more often. The WE P37 did it. And so, there are, and you could probably apply similar principles to liner locks as well. All right. So, it'd be nice to see some other variations like some of these that I've been talking about available. Right now, it's just let's make this a flipper and a front flipper and a thumb stud and a Spidey flick. Let's do all of the things, but what I would really like to see now, and actually, let me back up a little bit, guys, because I don't want to seem overly negative here. There are lots of knives out there that are really cool designs. The Chavez knives are fantastic. There are a bunch of Riot models, collaborations. The Liang Ma's knives with Riot are really, really good. But again, I would love to see if you're going to do something special and awesome, and the Chavez knives are a good example because they're overbuilt and they're heavy duty, except there's still single row bearings. There's still a tiny thin stop pin. They don't have any of those extra little touches that you see on something like this or this. All right, where they've gone a little bit above and beyond and done something cool internally as well as externally. And that is where I would really like to see things go. Let's see some innovation. And there are innovation in locks. But the frame lock, there are a lot of great ideas out there that could be implemented on these higher end models, and really at the price points that some of them are going for, especially the Riot knives and the WE knives. We should be expecting, see, and even some Bestecs, this Fairchild is a really great knife and it's really, really cool. But at the price point, I would want at least dual row ceramic bearings here. All right, that would just be seem appropriate at this point rather than, you know, um, rather than a nice upgrade. It would be like, well, no, let's take this and separate it from the pack. Let's do something that not everyone else is doing, because this knife it looks different than what everyone else is doing. So let's actually make it function a little bit differently as well. All right. So that's my rant, guys. Now, look, I love Framelocks. I'm still gonna buy titanium Framelocks. I'm still going to buy the ones that look cool. Okay. I still think this is a great knife. I think it's a great combination, as I said, of a practical cutting tool with a beautiful piece of artwork. And so that's great. I'm going to do that. But, when I look at knives like this, where it's, under $200 Kaiser, and it's got variable detent and variable, spring tension, that is so cool. When I see a knife like this that is a button lock with dual row ceramic bearings, right? It means these knives that are great already. Like, this is a cool looking knife, and if it had single row bearings, I would still think it was a great knife. But when you add those extra little touches on the inside, it really takes things to the next level. And I would love to see that a little more often, especially, look, if I'm buying a $150 concept because I like the knife, or a $150 Kaiser, maybe, great. Single row bearings, all the standard stuff that we're used to on every single titanium frame lock at this point. Good, go nuts. But when it's, when we're now pushing past $300, when we're, putting this in a very luxury sort of price point, it would be great to see the innovation extended to the internals of the knife and just see some extra thought, some extra durability. And I've tried to give credit here where credit is due. I want to give one more point of credit here. Look at how Riot and We Knives have done what they have done with their integrals. They came up with really, really cool, creative ways of putting that pivot together so that it can still get all the features of a typical modern frame lock. And I think that's awesome. And so I'd just like to see that on a broader scale in some of their other models, and see it as something that, look, once we pass the $150 to $200 price point, you're going to now see some extra thoughtfulness, some extra, you know, touches that relate to longevity and durability and reliability and strength, because now this is a knife that I've spent a lot of money on, that is it wrong to expect it to last, you know, for my whole cutting lifetime the way this one will? I don't think so. All right. So there you go. Those are some of the thoughts that I have. I mean, I guess there are a couple assumptions I made here. I'm assuming that there's going to be, bearing races in these knives. I'm assuming that they're going to be, lock bar inserts and a few other things that um, kind of help with that as well. But those are pretty commonly found. So I think at this point, those are expected more so than some of the things I tried to talk about. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Please, please check that description box. Using the link either to DLT or to White Mountain Knives does help the channel a whole lot. I'll thank you in advance for doing that. Again, I would love to hear your comments. And if you've got some other things that I didn't think of, and I meant to lead with this, so sorry that I'm closing with it, but I really would love to hear you guys put in the comments, yeah, Kevin, what about this or what about that? I'd love to see various other features on titanium frame locks that would improve them as well. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as check that description box. Using those links helps me out a lot. We'll talk to you soon.